You're listening to the Light Over Time podcast with David Sargent and Korey Bartos. It is like December 22nd, 2024. It is almost the end of the year. The holidays are right around the corner. It's going to be chaos for the next week and a half, but all good things. This is actually episode 45. I misspoke last episode and said that was 45.
I thought you said 44.
No, I wrote it on the screen.
Is that not what was published? Oh, okay.
It was definitely 44, but I said in the audio that it was 45. And crazy year for the podcast. A little less episodes this year, but we'll see how that fares in 2025 now that life is a little less crazy. A lot of life changes this year for both of us, really.
Both of us, yeah.
So I got a little bit of a disjointed show today. I don't have like really major topics, but we like really jam-packed last episode, so I wanted to make sure we talked about what we wanted to. Talk maybe a little bit about the future of 2025 for what we're looking for photography. Maybe have some hot takes because I'm feeling it today. So let's just kind of go off with what you've been up to. You released a Yellow Dog Falls vlog.
Yeah. I'll have to back it up a little bit because in the last episode we couldn't squeeze it in. I kind of revived a very old YouTube channel that I used to produce time-lapse videos on because I was just like a nut and that's all I was doing for like I felt like a decade where I was going through cameras like crazy because I was putting on 100,000 images in like a year or something like that. And some of these, like the A55 and the A65, my first couple of cameras, the SLT cameras from Sony, I probably put on 300,000 images between those two cameras just doing time lapses. And I don't know why I was so obsessed, but anyway, on that channel, it's just, I think it's just at David Sargent on YouTube. It's pretty cool. I restarted that channel. It's been, I want to say like 8 years or something like that since I really was doing anything on that of any kind of like value or effort. And I'm now just doing photography vlogs. And it's something that I've wanted to kind of commit to, but when I was self-employed trying to like do gig work all the time, it was a little bit difficult to try to like manage to think about even squeezing that in and around things I was doing. Now that my schedule is a little bit more regular and I like have weekends off and stuff, I'm doing it and it feels good. So I've done 3 episodes now. And I've got some thoughts about the way I want it to continue. I like what I'm doing, and that's evident from the fact that I like go back and watch it once it's published on YouTube. That's something that me and Lisa like to do. We'll make coffee and like watch it the next morning or something. And maybe that says something about my ego or something. I don't know, but I do enjoy the stuff that I make. I'm producing everything with my iPhone, which has its ups and downs. There's definitely some pros that I like about doing it that way, but certainly there are some cons. But so the first one was at a trail not far from Marquette. I just did, there's a little creek bed there that has a tiny little waterfall, and I was hoping for some fall colors. Ended up being like a 40-something minute video, which I did not intend for. Because I don't really, like, from the people that I watch photography vlogs about, their stuff tends to be 15, 20, maybe 25 minutes. And honestly, with them, the longer the better. I'll eat it up, but I know not everybody does. Yep. And I did not intend for a 40-plus minute video on that first one. I think I got it down to like 30-something minutes on the second one, where I went to Canyon Falls in Lance, which is about 40 minutes from my house. And that's an awesome little trail. The river there, I think it's Lance River, has just incredible like canyon slots basically where the river falls down to. And so it just creates natural waterfalls, and they're huge and very, very impressive for what you would expect to find in Michigan, really. And it was covered in ice, and it was like the second snowfall of the year. So like you could see lots of like red dirt with snow and moss with snow. It was just beautiful. So I had a good time there. Crashed my drone for the first time ever. That was fantastic. Thankfully, it was within arm's reach of the tree I was standing beside, so I was able to retrieve it. And then episode 3, I just filmed last Sunday, so a week ago, at Yellow Dog Falls, which is on the Yellow Dog River, a little bit north of Marquette. So I had to go about an hour through Marquette and then north of Marquette and then swing back around, because if you take the old country road from where I live, it's a really, really rough road. So I'll take the longer way and get there safely. Anyway, so there was waterfalls there, and they were really, really great. Got some nice images. I think I was hoping that I would get better images out of there, but I don't know, I was feeling a little rushed with some conditions. The snow was actively melting the longer I was there, so like my feet were getting wet. But I had fun. I produced that vlog in the last week, and it got down to, I want to say, like 20, 23, 25 minutes or something like that. So I'm pretty happy with what I've been doing lately. I love watching photography vlogs. There's something about it. To me, as a photographer, it's always mostly about like the journey. With nature photography, it's like getting on the hike feels better than actually making the images sometimes.
Yeah.
And so like documenting that and watching other people document that motivates me. And so if anything, if the videos motivate people to make better images than I made in my videos, then I'm happy.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
So it's been fun. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, again, I can't. There's so many different people say it about so many different kind of like skills and hobbies and work and stuff. But it's like the longer you don't do something, the longer it's going to be before you do it again. So
Yes.
just producing vlogs to like be making videos is the best way to make better work. Because you have to, like, you're not going to wait and wait and wait and then take the best photo of your life and then wait and wait and wait and take the best photo of your life. You have to be taking a ton of photos. And
Absolutely.
so, you know, simplifying the vlog by using the iPhone and not trying to go overly crazy with like the production of the video so you can focus on your images is
Absolutely
the way to go, in my opinion. And then you'll be drawn to shoot more often, and then it'll get easier and easier to vlog and shoot it. Then you'll start producing the images that you want to be doing while you're shooting it with your phone. So like that's always the move. That was something I was talking about in a meeting recently, because there's going to be a lot of changes at my job next year, and it's basically going to kind of change my entire content strategy. And it's going to pretty much be, I'm going to need to figure out how to just produce more often, and not try to hit like this threshold of quality that I want. Which is going to probably in turn be me doing a lot of competition shooting and getting like a clip on for my hat and doing like as much footage as I can and just condensing it down to what I'm learning and how I'm shooting and how I'm using products and stuff. So it's cool to have that parallel right now when I think so many people just want to be shooting, and you have to just do it, because the longer you don't, the longer you won't.
Yeah, that is so true. And in my head, there's a couple things. So Thomas Heaton, I've brought him up before. He started with an iPhone, and it was like the iPhone like 5 or something when he started over a decade ago. And they were great. They were super motivational. It's just, it was shaky as hell, and it was just, it wasn't well produced at the time, but it was a lens to watch him be the photographer that, I kind of wanted to be, and do the hikes that I thought were cool and see the things that I thought were cool. So just to see the process, that's what motivated me. And just to know that he was using the phone he had at the time, which was a good tool at the time. And we've certainly come a long way. Why not start with what you got now? And I tell photographers that now who like are thinking that they want to buy a camera to get started with the photography. If you've got a modern iPhone, just work with that for a bit. It doesn't have to be your camera for a whole year, but plug away at it for a couple of months and learn some foundational stuff. Anyway.
Yeah. If you do that with a cell phone for like a week, and you get like Lightroom, you'll learn all the manual controls. You'll learn how to edit already. Elle loses her mind all the time, because she'll take a photo and I'll be like, here, let me do it really quick. And I'll do it on I'll do it on Lightroom and do a quick little edit. And she's like, how? And I was like, because the iPhone takes an HDR image to make sure that you can see everything and that it's like nice. And it's nice. It's perfectly viable. But like, if you want some style, you just have to know a couple of little tricks. And it's not like I'm doing groundbreaking editing every time I edit a photo, but it's enough to make it look different, where you're like, that's a photo. That's not like a snapped pic on a phone.
Yeah. And so the other thing about that is you're totally correct. I knew that I wasn't going to be getting a second body anytime soon.
Yeah.
I've been very tempted many times throughout this last year, but I just knew it wasn't going to happen anytime soon. So I wanted to start. And it's like I had the David Sargent Coffee channel, which I was doing some of these things. I was doing these hybrid, let's go out, maybe do some photography, enjoy a hike, make some coffee to keep it relevant for coffee. And at the time when I did have the A7 IV and the A7C or the A7 III, like when I had two bodies, I was using them and I was producing work that I thought was really nice. And it's certainly the benefits of having the second body with a nice lens and with depth of field and all those things make the production value feel higher. And if you're motivated to continue to do it that way, great. But I sold the A7C to help get us up here and move and get the house and all that stuff. And I just don't have a second body right now. So it was either I make nothing and just continue to plan and think and hope and wish, or I just get started.
Yeah.
And I just got started and I made 3 videos and I'm happy with the tools that I had. I think they're pretty decent. So yeah, three vlogs in right now. I have no set, like, I'm going to make one every month or anything like that. It's just going to be like, if I've got the time to dedicate beyond just the photography, like if I can go out for an hour-long hike, but I've got 3 hours to spare, then I'll commit to extra time documenting the adventure. So maybe once a month, I might, go a couple months without. So it's not going to be anything super committal right now.
Yeah. Well, you know me. So what are you using to shoot on the iPhone? Are you just doing the in-camera app, or are you using like Blackmagic or anything like that?
I'm not using any secondary apps right now because one of the things I love most about the iPhone 15 Pro, and I don't know if it was on the previous or on the 16s now, but it's that action button that quickly opens the camera.
Sure.
And it is like, I press that, it can be in my pocket, I know which button it is, I'm pressing it as I pull it out, and I'm pretty much ready to go. All I got to do is switch to video real quick. And I might even be able to get that to switch to a default video state too. I'm not sure about that.
I think you can customize it a little bit, but I also think you can have it open another app.
Oh, I'll have to look into that.
So look into that. If you haven't used the Blackmagic camera app on the iPhone, I was using it a little bit when I was in the Philippines, and it gives you just a little bit of control in a way that's like pretty nice. I don't know if it'll be a caveat for like the autofocus or just it looking perfectly nice. I'm sure what you're doing is perfectly viable, but sometimes having you could probably make an entire like scene look better just if you controlled the white balance a little bit more, you know what I mean?
Yes, that was the biggest issue of this last video.
Yeah, and that's frustrating for me. So that's white balance alone is literally why I got the Blackmagic camera app. But
I'm gonna look into that.
It also has like kind of a log like option and stuff.
Okay.
Like you can kind of neutralize it. So I was matching it with my Sony cameras a little nicer and stuff like that. But again, not necessary, but the white balance thing, because as far as I know, there's not an easy way to like lock white balance on the
not
iPhone
that
app.
I've been able to see.
Yeah.
And I like, even while I was in the field making it, I was like, oh, the snow looks yellow. Now the snow looks blue. Now the snow looks yellow. And I knew ahead of time, I'm like, I am not going to sit there and adjust every freaking clip to make them all look white. It's just not happening. So yes, that was one of my biggest gripes. It goes along with, I'm going to just deal with it and make the thing. And then next time it'll get better. Next time it'll get better. Next time it'll get better.
Yeah.
So I'm going to check out Blackmagic. And if I can get that action button to open up that app, that'd be great. I know it's one of those things where the default camera video, and I'm not sure if there's like special algorithms working in there, but like depth of field is controlled a little bit differently sometimes. I feel like if you use the cinema mode versus the video mode, definitely, because if I transfer cinema mode video to like the laptop to edit on, it gets messed up sometimes, like depending on how you edit it or where you're putting it. And so I'm going to look into that. So if autofocus doesn't get wonky, if depth of field doesn't get crazy, and then if stabilization doesn't go to hell, then I'll be really happy.
Yeah.
If those 3 things are good, and I get the control that Blackmagic I know gives me, definitely I'll switch over.
Yeah. Well, and especially if the main caveat is that just it's more work to not look that much better, then like I would probably deal with white balance too. But the snow for a phone is so hard.
It's
the
rough.
snow throws that off because it's like, is this whole scene overexposed like crazy or what's
Yeah.
going on? So it likes to bounce back and forth.
That is probably one of the toughest situations for a phone, I think, especially when you're just all over the place with it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But that's sick. I look forward to. I actually haven't had a chance this last week and a half to look at the stuff, but I definitely saw the one yesterday and want to check it out.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll get those posted in the description and everything like that. Because I think I'm still posting the David Sargent Coffee channel and just copy pasting the
Yeah,
description.
sure.
So
That channel's not dead. I'm just not anywhere with a new video on that one yet.
yeah. I'll update it. So you'll find the links
Sure.
below if you're curious and want to check that
Cool,
out.
cool.
I mean, this kind of gives me a good segue into one of the things I wanted to talk about in general, which was just like what. Well, there's a couple. It's all kind of convoluted because I've had a hard mental week for some reason. But I wanted to start with like what we're looking to do. Not like I'm not a New Year's resolution guy. I don't believe in like saying like, well, at the start of the year, just like you just said, I'm going to start my videos. That's how I am as well. But the end of this year is also kind of coinciding with me kind of finding equilibrium in my personal life. So in the last month, I've been like, oh, okay, well, like I can actually decide to do things. I picked up a bass guitar so I can start playing bass again, and like I've just been doing things. So um, I'll just jump into what I have here. But one of the things that I really want to do is capture more of my everyday life nicely. I was looking back at some of my photos from Vancouver earlier in the year and like was ridden with emotions looking at those photos. And, you know, I'm actually tomorrow will be exactly 1 year to the day where I met Elle. And before that, like stuff wasn't as emotionally charged because I was single and I was just like vibing and things like that. Like even looking at the Philippines photos and stuff, it was very fun and it was really cool, but it wasn't like as like heavy or impactful when I go back and look at it. But now I'm looking at these photos with, you know, I'm now engaged to Elle and we're going to have ideally the rest of our lives together. So it's cool that without trying too hard, I started taking some photos, but it was still not quite as many as I'd like for like normal stuff, like hanging out with the cats or hanging out with the nephews or going around town, bopping around and like shooting photos of us while we're like birding or going on Pokemon Go walks and stuff like.
Yeah.
So that's one of my big things. But outside of a big bird year, because we're gonna go really ham next year with birds, I want to photograph people again. If you scroll back on my personal Instagram, like 2 years, it used to only be photos of humans. I used to only take portraits of my friends and portraits of cool people I met. Yeah. And I guess I stopped doing that and I just don't post those photos anymore. But they're still always my favorite. The ones I look at the most online are like really interesting portraits. So I want to like force myself some way to find that passion again, to like want to ask, hey, can I take your picture? Can, you know, do portrait sessions with people, like get some concepts and do some cool ones. Like,
it doesn't sound like you've lost that passion. It just sounds like you got interested in more other things, right?
Well, yeah, but like enough passion to like want to say, okay, what are we doing this week? Oh, Saturday I got some free time. Let's like try to set up a portrait session. Like, let's get some cool people together and photograph them. Just because it's epic. Like I've met so much people, so much people. I've met so much people. I've met so many cool people in the last like year. And when I used to meet people, I used to ask them within the first handful of days of meeting them or whatever. It's like, oh, can I like take your photo or whatever? I used to meet a lot more people because I worked at camp every summer, so I met like 65 new really cool people every year.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of just like the big three things that I think I'm really going to try and hit hard outside of work, obviously.
Yeah, I hope you do it. I'd love to see more bird photos and more people photos. Awesome.
But what about you?
Yeah. So one of the things that is just going to happen because I'm going to make it happen is I'm buying a new car this coming year. Like I have to. I've got a family in the UP. I cannot continue to be driving 20-year-old cars anymore.
Right, yeah.
It's how I'm 31 years old and since I was 16, I've had a 20-year-old car at all times, basically. That
Same.
some rusty part is always breaking and falling, and I'm always fixing it. And I'm just so ready to be done with that. I live in a place where all the coolest places are miles down a dirt road, and I need a car that's not going to fall apart getting there. So I've got money stashed away. Like, man, if they announce a Sony A7 IV between now and getting a car, I'm in trouble. But I've got money stashed away, and I'm gonna get a new car. We're looking at like maybe a Forester or like even a maybe a Bronco or something. I'm not sure.
Take a look at the RAV4, and then honestly,
I would love one.
The Mazda, I think it's the CX-5. It's whatever the C series Mazda. A lot of people are getting those, and it's kind of becoming. Everybody used to say in Michigan, like, "Oh, get an all-wheel drive Subaru," but a lot of people are saying newer Subarus are just not up to snuff. Like they're kind of But
I'm probably going to be looking in like the 2019, 2020 year models. So
but I think that's kind of the issue is like that era. So
great.
But one of my best friends just got, I think in the last like 2 years, one of those probably 2019, 2020 Mazdas, and it's roomy. It like feels kind of luxurious, but it wasn't expensive as far as I know. Like it was in that like SUV range that is really good for a family.
And if it's just got enough room for me to car camp more comfortably than a Ford Fusion, I'll be very happy.
Yeah. It definitely does. My giant self can fit in the back seat pretty comfortably. So
very cool. Yeah, okay, I'll check it out.
But it's not massive. Like they have a small 2-car garage, and his Beamer and that fits in it nicely. So
cool.
Not too much car talk, but definitely take a look at that, or like one of those like 2019, 2018 RAV4s, because those are still my favorite. We're considering an SUV as well.
So the other one that I think kind of correlates with that is once we have a more reliable car, it's going to take me more places. Yeah. There are like roads that I'm just not considering going down that I know lead to cool places, but my 2007 Ford Fusion just ain't gonna do it, you know? And I'm stupid enough to try on my worst days, and I pay for it sometimes. So like once the car thing is settled, next summer's going to be like road trips. It's going to be checking out different states. We're going to have some fun. So it's going to be that new car, because that's a serious goal. All my life, I have never had the luxury of a modern car. So we're saving up for that, and it's going to take me cool places, and that is the goal for 2025.
Yeah, that's awesome. Especially with the kids, like you can fit them in there, but is it that comfortable? Like, so having the space in there so they don't feel cramped and you don't feel cramped, and you can have all your things and comfort. It's so crucial. We
have the west side of the Lake Superior, like Chattahoochee State Park and all that. But then like I want to go to Montana and all these other cool states with, bison and big mountains and, all that stuff. So to finally have a car that I can trust to do it, I'm so excited.
Yeah. That part of the country is definitely on our short list. Elle did a rotation for medicine out in Yellowstone. And so it's become really important to her, and she really wants to take me there to see it like through her eyes, like what she experienced. And I've obviously spent time in Montana and Wyoming, and I just love it out there. So I hope we can sneak away for like 10 days and drive out there and do all that. So I'm with you there. Yeah, that's awesome. I feel it right now in the winter because I'm commuting in a 1990 Buick Riata, which if you're unfamiliar with the Riata, it's basically like, it looks like a Porsche until you realize it's nothing like a Porsche. It was like Buick's luxury.
It's a beautiful car.
Yeah, it's sweet. It's got flip ups. Like it's a cool car, and it's really comfy. It has like legit climate control that works better than any modern car I've been in.
Nice.
The thing's sick, but it's not a commuter across wintry Michigan roads.
Yeah.
So I think like we'll probably, between the two of us, get one SUV-like vehicle this year as well. That and being completely out of consumer debt is like side goals for the year. If you have consumer debt, the best thing you can do for yourself is figure out how to tackle that stuff quickly and effectively. Yeah. It's not good to be in consumer debt. If you got to like transfer it into, a slightly lower percentage, do that. and then learn how to aggressively pay that off and still put something into like a high yield. This isn't financial advice, but like everybody I've talked to that doesn't know how to save, once I get them on a high yield savings account, they're like, how do I have like 3.5 grand all of a sudden? It's like,
Hmm.
because you've been putting away $100 a month for the last like
Yeah.
a couple of years in it, you know? Um,
See, my problem is I live in a family where one of the adults in the house knows how to save and one of the adults in the house knows how to do the opposite.
yeah.
So it just neutralizes itself sometimes, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's fair. I think there's I don't know who's quoted for saying it or whatever, but the two most powerful forces in the world are water and compound interest. So take care of compound interest. It's really devastating, but it's also really positive if again you have compound interest daily on your own money. So
Yeah.
don't let your money sit in a checking account. Put it
No.
in at least a high yield. Don't buy meme coins. Um, do it the right old school way.
Yeah.
Anyway, off my soapbox, but yeah, so that's going to be awesome. I'm excited for more adventures. Seeing more of the UP through your eyes will be cool, especially if you're going to keep doing vlogs and all that. So
Yeah, man, because for like a landscape photographer, a nature photographer, going to new places often enough feels like having new gear because
Yeah.
you're just always like inspired, and
Yeah.
I love that.
yeah, that was birds for me in 2024. Like
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, like I probably would have bought so much more stupid stuff all year if I didn't just get the 200 to 600 and be like, where do I find birds?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was epic.
Fantastic.
But yeah, so moving on to, I'll just jump into like I kind of have a side thing for what I've been up to is like I said in the last episode, got the A6700. It's pretty great. But yesterday, this arrived because I was talking to my buddy Ryan, like I always do. And he has a couple of little Fujis and a couple little cameras, and he's in a different kind of realm when it comes to photography. That's really refreshing for me to talk to, and he's really excited about it. So like when he gets a new like lens or a new camera, he'll go out, shoot a million shots of like street photography and like his partner and a bunch of other stuff. It's great and it's really motivating. So Ryan, if you're listening to this, thank you. But he was talking about the Fuji 27 mil f2.8 on his XE4, which is a system that I had in late 2020. I had the Fuji XE4 and I bought the Ttartisan 27 mil f2.8, which is kind of like the copy of that lens. And they make it for the E mount. So I got it because I had points from a return on Amazon, and all said and done, this was $130 for me.
Cool.
It's autofocus. It's
It is.
It's f2.8. It is way sharper than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be
For the money?
yeah, I thought it was going to be a dog. It's like properly sharp, but as far as having something in my bag where I can take photos of what's going on in my life, this is awesome. This actually,
I was going to bring that up. I was going to ask you, like, what's that comfortable, small, pocketable camera system that's going to do that for you? And that looks awesome.
so because this camera is like my C video camera for work.
Yeah.
Like if I happen to need a safety angle, this is when this comes out. I've been using it for my main photos just so I can get more used to using it and get used to the files, but I don't need it for that. It's primarily I basically bought this for Elle. This is her birding camera. I wanted her to have more reach. I wanted her to have a light camera. That is its only purpose. But she doesn't use it for anything else, so I don't want it to just sit on a shelf either. But it's much smaller than all my other cameras. It is still slightly smaller than the A7C II, and I really like the files. The files are good. I have a film simulation preset that I've been working on for my Sony cameras that I really like. I modeled it after some Fuji stock that I was shooting in my film cameras for the last couple of years, and it's pretty true. I really like it. I can pretty much slam it on any photo that Elle kind of likes, and she loves the photo. So that's a win for me.
Yeah.
But it's really impressive. I don't love that it has a 39 mil filter thread because that gives me less options to have like I want to put an everyday CPL on it or something with a mist.
Yeah.
But it's really sharp and it cost almost nothing. It's been fun. So it's a little noisy. It's not so noisy like the old Sony 50-1.8 where you can like really hear it if you're taking photos. But if you try to shoot video in autofocus without something external, you'll hear it's kind of gross. But it doesn't annoy me for photos. My initial tests have been better than my Fuji experience with it. Partially due to the fact that I believe, obviously, Sony has way better autofocus than the XE4.
Yeah.
But I get complete eye continuous autofocus tracking on people and my cats. It seems to be relatively fast. It's f2.8. It has a aperture ring on it, so I shoot aperture priority a ton. So it's kind of nice to have that because all of my bigger professional lenses right now have an aperture ring. It's tiny. So
yeah.
this is
well, that looks like a much better use of the money versus the Polar Pro 26 mil lens that I got. So I think you'll be a lot more productive with it than I have been, because I look at that thing in my bag and I go, boy, if I made a dumb purchase in 2024, it'd be hard to argue that wasn't it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the 16 was probably part of the issue.
Oh, was it 16?
Yeah,
the 16.
If you had the 28, I think you'd probably be in better shape. That's just so wide. But like, where's this equivalent for a full frame? Because
well, Sony has that 35 mil 2.8 pancake that I started with the A7 III.
Dog though. This is objectively sharper than that lens, and that's a freaking
and it's not 35, lens. which is a bonus.
Yeah. Well, this is sweet. It's 27, so it's 41. And
that's cool.
And 40 is my favorite. So this is ideal for me. This is all I need.
Cool.
I've been running the 24 mil, which gives me, a 35, 36 mil field of view, but it is big. It's just bigger. Like, I can actually just go on a walk with the nephews and stuff and have this in my coat pocket and have a camera.
How's the depth of field look if you're doing portraits or anything? Have you taken a shot of a person yet?
Yeah, just around the house. I got it last night.
Okay.
But I mean, it's pretty good. I shot some ramen photos that I'll post. Just my cat with the Christmas tree behind him, and relatively close. It looks pretty good. It's not going to blow you away like a 1.8 or anything, but that's not what it's supposed to do.
No, sure.
And this is kind of my hope. I have my little sling bag, and I haven't tried it yet, but I'm hoping that I can put this in there sideways, and then in the rest of the sling bag fit the 70 to 200 with the teleconverter.
Yeah.
If I can do that, and anywhere I go, I can have a bird camera and this. That's the dream.
Yeah.
I still really want to buy the freaking 100 to 400 for L, but I'm kind of nervous about getting that lens from Sigma when I know that it's going to have issues with just running as fast as the future can be. It's harder for me to future-proof that lens when if we start to love this and she ends up with an even faster camera in a year, she's going to be capped at 15. She's going to be capped at the autofocus not running 120 FPS or whatever, you know what I mean? Whatever it could possibly be. Because it's still an $800 lens. It's not cheap. So that's the struggle. So right now I kind of still have her just on my 70 to 200 in the teleconverter because it's hard to justify. That thing at least keeps up with the camera. But
are you guys getting around in the winter doing any birding right now?
So, I mean, that was the other half of this. We haven't done a whole lot. We've been keeping it with us because there's so many cool red tails. We saw a Cooper's hawk. There's been some really cool stuff. We will pull off the side of the highway and check out a bird. She'll be like, Korey, cool bird, and I just ah. But right outside my window, I think I mentioned it briefly, there's been this kingfisher, and I finally got some photos of it.
Nice.
I'll hear him almost every day. So he's a resident kingfisher, which is incredible because it's my favorite bird. And you'll just hear, and I'm just okay, grabbing my stuff, throw my coat on, I'm swarming. And I had done that 3 or 4 times, couldn't find him. One time I saw him really far away, and then he flew down the river in a way that I couldn't keep following him.
Yeah.
But just the other day, I was working from home, and I heard him, and I grabbed all my stuff and ran out, and I got 15, 20 minutes with him. I didn't pull any good photos, but I did get a couple. And got to at least watch him scoop a fish out of the river when it's snowy.
Love that.
And there's ice on the river, and it's super sick. So I have a very blurry image of him with a fish in his mouth flying under the bridge.
But that's okay. It's the more time you spend watching the behavior like that, the more you retain about exactly where they go and what they like to grab and the timing and all that. You just learn the more you watch. And so when you are ready and in position for that perfect shot, you're going to be prepared for it.
Yeah, well, and it's sweet. So there's a bridge right over the river. And I think I've garnered that he might either, I don't know how kingfishers nest, but he either nests up there or he hangs out in there because he'll go from, I have like one small stretch of the river hits the fish ladder. So there's like a dam type situation, right? And so, like, that's pretty much the walkway. And then there's the bridge. And then on the other side, it keeps going north. And so he'll swoop under the bridge, and sometimes he'll stop in there. Like he stopped and he fed in there when he had the fish, but he'll go back and forth. And I just run under the bridge because the walkway goes right under it. And I'll go over there. I watched him skate basically back and forth across the whole river. And he'll go up there, he'll perch, and then he'll fly back under the bridge and go back towards the fish ladder.
Hmm.
And so he knows that, the fish ladder's popping. There's where the meals are. So
Yeah.
he's hanging out.
Very cool.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
pretty rad. But I really want to try and find an owl. I'm still kind of like listening to people and like that's gonna be. I'm probably gonna try that. We're going up to her sister's to watch the kids right after this show, and I would really like to go. They live kind of in. They're actually not far from Sleepy Hollow, so they're
Nice.
like 15 minutes from Sleepy Hollow. So they're just kind of out in the woods. I'd love to catch an owl because I know they're out there. They have a resident screech owl out there. Um,
Ah, a
but
screech.
but we'll see. They hear it all the time, and I'm just like,
Those are little guys.
yeah.
Yeah.
But so I'll take all the bird lenses, and we'll be hanging out all day there today. So
Nice.
perhaps we'll
Very cool.
we'll take the kids for a walk and try to pull it off. But yeah. I think outside of those things, you had a couple of topics you wanted to talk about, but I wanted to present you with maybe a question or an idea, or like just pose an open question to everybody who is a
Yeah.
photographer. Um, what in the hell does it mean now that everything is so good? Everything you could have ever wanted 5 years ago. Everyone is producing content about how everything is so good. Everyone is like basically talking about story all the time, but there's not that much stories being told. It's still just like, well, here's the new stuff, and here's the new stuff, and we're like a little guilty of it because it's fun. We're enthusiasts, but like, I just want to know like what does it really mean now? How do we engage with this art and deal with the fact that outside of everything being super perfect and clinical to AI art to just a large saturation of people taking good images, where are the spaces where we're finding inspiration? Where are the spaces where we can have community? What's the parts of this art that like still exist? I struggle with one particular thing, which is related to one of your topics I'll let you bring up in a sec, which is whatever we've turned the term street photography into. Um, a lot of people have complained openly about like the street photography on YouTube, which is like a person, which almost always feels staged. And it's like, oh, hey, you're really beautiful. Can I take your picture? And they like take portraits in the street and then they tag
Oh,
it.
I
And
hate
they
those
and they
videos.
tag it street photography. Or it's like a dude with a 70 to 200 like taking like secret portraits of people and like street photography, and it's like blurry, and it's a beautiful photo because his gear is super nice, but it's like that's not street photography.
Yeah.
What's the story? What city are you in? Because it's all blurry. It's a person's face.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like I don't want to be like a gatekeeper, and I don't want to just like totally shun people who are doing what they're doing, but like I still look up to guys like Ted Forbes who talk about real photography, and you talk about the art and the history of the art, and throw back to guys in the 60s who became like the big street photography people and this and that. And I want to know like how do we nurture this space in a way that's not gatekeeping and can like
Mm.
actually make room for real art? How do we support each other when it's so saturated? And like how do I, like I'm not like going out and good morning on Twitter and be like post your thing and I'm replying to all of them. That's not
Yeah.
art to
No.
me either. Like,
Well, okay. So this is a real like top level conversation because you're talking about how do we change like the communication and the behaviors of all these people trying to do a similar thing to the best of their ability, and where's the community at? And it's like I got a couple stupid answers for you. I love YouTube, but there's probably a reason why I don't follow any. I think maybe like one person who does street photography on YouTube.
Yeah.
And like he has this curated community of people who are basically fanboys of his, and I like his work, but I'm not like engaged in that community either. As much as I like street photography, I don't do a whole lot of it myself, but I do recall the times that I was in New Orleans doing street photography, and there's certainly different approaches. Like for the most part, I was doing it stealth and just waist level, relying on autofocus and not even looking at the screen, just like spray a few, and if you got one, cool. And then there's the the opposite end of, I saw a couple cool people and I was like, hey, I like your look, can I take your portrait? And there's like those two approaches. For me, I was comfortable enough for the most part, but when you're talking about community, where is that? I don't really know. You could go to a gallery. You could find exhibitions, I suppose. But where you're at, maybe you have a little bit more opportunity to connect with people in real life, in a real space, and start talking. And it may take you creating something in
Right.
real life to get people together, because I don't want to do it on Twitter.
Right.
And I don't even really want to do it on YouTube. I don't really care if people watch my vlogs all that much, but I love it when someone messages me and says, "Hey, can I come on a hike with you?"
Yeah.
Like, that's so cool to me.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of community that I want to be involved in. People around me doing the thing that I get to share that experience with. And maybe it's not going out and doing street photography with somebody else, but maybe it's form a club and get other people involved. And I don't have a great answer for you. Maybe some of our listeners have a better answer.
Yeah, and I have a buddy in Germany who's Fabian, who's sent in some stuff, and we were talking about it, and that was one of the things that I kind of suggested that I'd like to do, is like try to figure out, like, I'd love to do a camera and coffee meet somewhere.
Absolutely.
Like, I have a couple of coffee shops here that are big enough, that have like a wide open enough space that we could just impromptu do it and not have to ask for space.
Yeah.
And meet
I'm
up.
going to host something like that at Dead River. I want it to be kind of an art swap, but also like, it's going to be like a 4-hour thing. And if you want to hang out and talk cameras or whatever, I want to do that. So grabbing some of those people in a space together, talking face to face, bring your cameras. Let's just nerd out. I like that stuff.
I was kind of hoping to elicit a more visceral feeling from this local shop that I tried this week. They're called the Camera Store Lansing, and they do prints and stuff like that. I don't want to like totally throw them under the bus or whatever. I'm not super thrilled with the prints, and some of it might have been my fault. I know some of the prints, like the images I got from you, were uncalibrated, and I didn't prep them to be printed, like I probably should have. And some of mine I didn't. They were like different levels of sRGB, but like I just feel like the other places I wanted to support local. I've always used Printique,
Yeah.
but Printique will like make sure it comes out like it does on the computer. Like, I've never got a print back from them and been like, "Oh, I totally blew the colors on this," and it's like whatever. We have a 16 by 20 that I shot in Montana is hanging on our wall, and I love it, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Did not have that experience with these guys, which was a bummer. Like, and it was like $50 for all the prints that I got, because I got a bunch for gifts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, for $50, I'm pretty unsatisfied. I think this is the year that I get a printer.
Yeah.
But like, here's the thing, and I don't personally feel like this was this business failing. But I do believe that they lost a really big opportunity. So I walk in, there's a couple of people being helped. I'm looking at some of the old vintage lenses and stuff, trying to see if they have any M42 glass or anything that I can adapt that I'd like. And there's a couple in front of me that were picking up some Instax film or something, and the guy helps her. The guy, I believe, he felt like he was either like a part of the owner, or he's been there a long time and he's like the manager or something, because he didn't seem like he was an older gentleman, probably in his 50s or 60s. He was very nice, but and he seemed really knowledgeable. He was helping another guy with an old like Nikon F2 with a data back and stuff, and like he knew everything that the old man was asking him about the camera. So he seemed like super knowledgeable. He was really friendly to me. But I get prints, right? And I'm thinking this is a small business. This is not like they do online print orders, but they process film, they do a couple other things. And so I come in with online prints. You know, I had 2 orders. I got one for Zach, and I got a bunch for our family. And he's like, okay, yeah, cool. Got these, rung them up, whatever. Didn't really ask me if I needed anything else in any meaningful way. And then I was like, okay, cool, thanks. And I'm just kind of browsing. Never reached out like, hey, is this the first time you've used us as a printer? Didn't try to like, and it was really slow. It was like a Saturday at 1 p.m. and they closed at 2 p.m. So like he was hanging. There's a younger kid there working, and I was like, this was such a good opportunity to just like make me a customer for life.
Yeah.
If like you don't recognize me, I just ordered a slew of prints, and you're not gonna like try to. I don't know. That's why I go to local places. Even Norman Camera and GR and Keizu are like not amazing at it, but they're friendly enough that once you start talking to them, they'll like start talking to you.
Yeah, that's a real big bummer because that industry has been in danger for a while. That the physical brick and mortar camera store is going away.
Right.
There are very few of them, and maybe it's plateaued, and maybe they're not going to go completely extinct. But they sure as heck need to be more engaging for every person that walks in there, because if I worked there, I would love nothing more than to try and pull every potential photographer, potential customer in and be part of a community.
Oh.
And that can be that space. So maybe that's that segue you're looking for. Because what a cool opportunity, yes, to be like, you bought our prints. Let's talk about what you're doing, and maybe what your future of or your print work is, or what the future of your work is, and what we have available to you, and what events maybe are coming up in our shop that you could be part of, or maybe opportunities for you to form something to lead within our space. You know, that's the type of stuff that we do in the shop in coffee, and it involves artists, and it involves writers, and it involves all kind of like craft makers.
Right.
And it's like, okay, we're not going to charge you to use our space because it's bringing customers in. People are going to buy coffee or whatever. But it is that, what do they call them? A third space. That's like this term that's been moving around lately. To have these third spaces where people can go and be a part of a community, and it might be a mobile, like this community comes in on this day, and you have all these new people, and to have that space is so important. So it is interesting to see the industry of the brick and mortar camera shop not try their best to engage, and maybe they're having an off day. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's the holidays. Like, there's a lot to it. Like, I don't want to just like. I'm not going to try and rule them out. I wasn't happy with the prints, and I know some of them were set up okay to print. But like,
did you bring that up?
I did. Well, I didn't really look at them yet because they were kind of stacked in like, clear plastic or whatever. But like, I don't know what I did, but I know that Printique, you can check a box and say, make sure this doesn't look like shit.
I think there's things on both ends that could be done.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a bummer that they didn't at least reach out.
And like some of them, it's very clear that like, dog, that was not the colors that were on the file that I sent you. And
that's a bummer.
And it sucks because I used their online uploader, which was not good. Like, they're not a massive company, so it's not like they have like a coder to make like the greatest thing. But there was not a whole lot of customization. If one of them wasn't to the right color space, I don't know what happens when it converts during the upload. Like, I don't know how it processes into their thing. So it didn't say anything about how you should prep your files before you send them to them. And that's just kind of a bummer because like I would have loved to go, oh, well then I'll start bringing my film here. I'm probably going to bring my film there because I'm sure they can knock out that, and it is cheaper. I think it's like $10 for processing, and they do scans and everything, rather than shipping it and doing all that nonsense. But
let me ask you, you probably have other print houses you could go to, but do you have other camera stores that you can go to?
No, there's not really any other camera store. Like Norman
yeah.
Camera in Keizu and in Grand Rapids is the only other major one. And listen, this isn't like a camera store. Their bread and butter is not selling camera gear. They have like a small amount of stuff that they sell there, but they don't have any online sales. All of their stuff was service based. That's why I think it's crazy that they didn't like try like, because prints is like, if I get you, you're gonna keep using me for your prints.
Sure.
there was no follow up. There was nothing that led me to believe that they really cared. And maybe they're just bang up and they do plenty of work, but I doubt it somehow. Like, I feel like there's like the Walgreens person, and they have like a frame shop in there. Like they can help you frame everything and all that stuff. But I'm gonna try to maybe figure out how I can talk about my dissatisfaction in a way that doesn't come off like I'm an asshole. Um,
Yeah. No, you should, because if that's your option and you want them to succeed,
yeah,
express that and be like, let's work together and find a solution.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it definitely made me go, okay, well, if that's $50, and if I even do that a couple more times where I'm slightly dissatisfied, I should just get a printer.
Yeah.
At
Mhm.
least one that goes up to 8x10, but I'd like to be up to like 11x17
Mhm.
and be able to like print my own stuff. It'll be a little bit messier and a little bit like more work, but I have a calibrator. I have all the stuff I need to do it, and it's like,
That's like an espresso rabbit hole.
yeah, I know.
You can get a good printer for cheap, but once you start digging,
Yeah.
it goes and goes and goes.
Dude, I almost bought a Canon 1000 Pro 3 times
Yeah.
this year. But like,
Yeah.
I don't even have the space in here to really do
Uh-huh.
it. But I know that Elle would love to just be able to on demand have me print stuff. So
Yeah.
I think it'll be. I think if it was just me, it wouldn't quite as be worth it. But I think it'll probably end up being worth it. So it's
And that's kind of like the divide too between like that shop, the service they provide. Is there a bridge for them to be to keep you as a customer, and you've got your own printer? Do they offer like educational services? Do you know?
not that I know of. Like, and
Yeah.
again, I think if they were that serious about printing, it would take an email to say, hey, so like the colors, can you tell me anything about the files? Like, is this how this was
Yeah.
supposed to come out? Whatever. I don't know enough about the print industry. That's not something I've ever done. So I don't know
Sure.
how people do that. But dude, I've never had an issue with Printique. And I've
Mhm.
sent them like dozens and dozens of big pictures that I have gifted
Yeah.
people over the years. And it's always been so clean. Some of these prints didn't even look that good. Like, I think in it, like the resolution was fine. So
Mhm.
like it doesn't look like it was super sharp. I don't know if that's something on their end for like whatever software they're using, or again, if their uploader is compressing these files, like, hey, make sure your file is like 6 MB, because you can optimize a 6 MB file to look good printed. But like if I give you like an uncalibrated 17 MB image, your software compresses the heck out of it and then defaults to like pro RGB, and it doesn't fix anything.
Well, the way I look at it is there's a couple things that can happen. You don't say anything, you don't return as a customer, and that keeps happening with other people, and that business fails at some point. How long they hold on, who knows?
Sure.
Or you do say something, and in the future your prints come out better and they retain you as a customer, and maybe they learn something about their process that helps them with other customers, and that helps the business on a bigger scale than even just you. And so I think there's only benefits if you bring it up, because if you don't go back, they don't get your business. If you do go back and they're nasty about it, they don't get your business.
Yeah.
But if you do go back and you find a solution
Yeah.
and you continue to go back, that's positive.
Yeah, sure.
So I would say at least give it a try.
Yeah, I might try Monday. We'll see what happens. We're still gonna utilize it. Like, they weren't so devastating that like I'm gonna like not gift some of these prints, because a lot of the folks that we're giving these to, they're not as sharp as me as far as like
Yeah.
if Elle says that they're passable for the gifts, then I'll defer to her. But yeah, like one of the photos that I know was calibrated well was the one that I did for Zach, and it's very magenta. It's like towards cool and magenta, and I was like, this it works for like the style of photo it was, so I'm just gonna leave it. But it was a little annoying.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, so that was the thing. I think printing will have to. I'll probably have some questions for you, because obviously you've done a ton of it and I haven't. But yeah, that's
I think with local places, it's always worth giving a second try
right.
with some of these kinds of things.
Man, like he could have upsold me. Like if I had a bunch of used like old film lenses and stuff, you know how easy it is to ham up some like younger looking dude and be like, oh, do you adapt to mirrorless? Like, are you a film shooter? Like, what are you looking at? I got all sorts of stuff. I would know one of every, like, there was Minoltas, there was old Nikons, there was old.
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
have one of each of those used things that I would say, oh, this is my favorite Minolta lens that we have. It's sweet. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. Like, that's sales, baby. Like,
yeah.
you like a
Yeah.
$50 sale that you weren't gonna make at a small shop like that, and to get rid of an old ass product that probably was gonna sit for another 2 years. Why wouldn't you do that? You saw me sitting there
Yeah.
for 10 minutes looking at every individual top of the lens to see what you had, and you're not even gonna like ham it up.
Well, if this is systemic, the only reason they're in business still is because they're the only one
Yeah.
left.
Well, and
So
again,
that's kind of a bummer. But I would give them that second chance to see,
yeah.
like, is this how they are, or did they have an off day?
Yeah. For a local place, they do like the acrylic prints and they do metal prints and they do
Oh,
all. So
nice.
like they do all of the services that like I see on like Printique and stuff, but
Yeah.
so I think their entire business is really about framing and printing, which is why it's crazy. But again,
Yeah, I would go back. You never know.
yeah, I guess there's a lot that happens exporting through Lightroom, especially so for those of you listening who do this and are relatively new to printing like I am. When you take a photo from Lightroom, send it to Photoshop and you edit it and then you save it to round trip it and it's a TIFF, you have to make sure when you take that TIFF and export it that you're converting it to whatever color space that you want it to be, because it's not everything. A lot of stuff like Google and Facebook and everything like that, they're smart enough to go, this is going to become sRGB, but some websites aren't. So some websites you'll upload that, it'll be in like some wild like Adobe RGB color space, and it'll make your colors look super flat and dull, and
Mm-hmm.
it just looks kind of broken. It almost, if you're familiar with what like log footage looks like before you color grade it, it gets like kind of that, but like it makes the
Mm-hmm.
colors weird looking. And that's because you go from like what 1.6 million to like 3 billion colors or whatever when you start expanding your color spaces to Adobe
Yeah.
and Profoto and stuff. So you just got to be wary, because I think when you bake in those TIFFs, if you export from the TIFF and you don't have something to convert it, your Windows, especially, I don't know how it handles on Mac, but your Windows computer is going to be like, oh, this is a much wider color space. And you'll have a bad time.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway. Uh, I think for the most part, that's what I had. I just wanted to like figure out if I'm crazy or if there's just like a lot of bad photography content that's making me jaded lately. But
I think I think there is a lot of that.
yeah,
But I think, there's a lot of people trying to tell their stories and just don't have the audience and the platforms are there. I'm not going to say they don't have the platforms.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't have command of the platform.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people trying to tell a story. There's just too many of us,
yeah,
and we all get lost.
yeah. I just want it to be like, I want to feel like I did in like 2018 and 2019 about content again. And maybe it's just the oversaturation. So like everybody kind of goes, there's too many people copying the same people.
Yeah.
Because like YouTube in itself lends itself to a conformity that
Hmm.
I don't believe necessarily like really puts art on its best pedestal. Like, you're gonna conform to what the algorithms and the people want. The people think
Yep.
they want the
Definitely.
same thing. The people, and everyone's guilty of it. They're like, I really like this thing. Why can't like everybody just do it like this, but it be different? That's not what you want. You don't want that thing again. That's how you get Marvel movies, and that's how you get Netflix streaming
Yeah.
movies where they're all the same. Like, you don't want
Yep.
that. The thing that made that thing great was that it was different. And so I guess the
Yes.
faster we understand that, and we figure like not everyone's cut out to make shit. Like, straight up, like it's hard to make good
Yeah.
new stuff. But just keep exploring and don't try to feed the algorithm. Like, make honest stuff and like tell a story and do cool
Yep.
things.
Yep.
I'd rather have somebody tell me the best story from a webcam in a 30-minute unedited video than have a 3-minute hyper YouTube crazy effect transition reel where they're like, my day in New York City was blah blah blah. And I'm like, dude, I'm not watching that content ever again. Like, I'm not doing I'm gonna like do if Casey Neistat was Mr. Beast for a vlog. I don't want that.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know, man. I do just think that there's a lot of us all trying to do very similar things, and so a lot of these voices sound the same.
Well, don't do that.
I don't think we try.
no.
I think it's just an automatic thing. Yeah, I watch a lot of the content that I like to watch, and maybe in the back of my mind, I'm making art that I want to see from them, and maybe I need to be more cognizant of that.
Yeah. All right, moving on from that. If you have anything that you want to include into that, let me know. If you have any content that you're making, like, share your stuff with us. I'm completely open to that. In fact, I am still considering making a Light Over Time Discord because I would like to try briefly to cultivate some magic. As Discords go, they'll probably be really good in the beginning, and then they'll trickle out and be chaos, and I'll probably delete it. But it's worth doing at least for a little while to meet some new people and see what people are sharing and what they're making, because it matters.
For sure.
Yeah. We had a couple other things. I wanted to ask you a follow-up about your journey trying to get away from Adobe, if you've found anything, if you've like looked into that other software a little bit.
Man, no, I'm in limbo. I should have taken more time to look at what you sent me, but when you said to me that you just kind of gave in and are just okay with the fact that you're going to use Photoshop and Lightroom, it burns a little bit, but it did set in with me that this was the first price hike for the photography plan in like a decade or something, or like ever since they released the plan, I think. For the monthly tier. Yeah. And the fact that the price hike didn't impact the annual tier does definitely make me want to just lock into that for another year, which I don't like saying, but since I don't have another solution that I'm like ready to fire off right now, probably should just go ahead and do that.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing. I think potentially I could figure out how to use something that's not Photoshop if anything could just retouch images nearly as fast. Like, again, all the AI stuff, cool, all that, whatever. I would miss some of it. But dude, if I just need to like blur some stuff for work, I do a lot of OPSEC stuff for people in law enforcement, so I gotta like blur their faces or tattoos or whatever. Photoshop is amazing at that. I can do it in a stylistic way that I really like super quickly. In fact, I have an action in Photoshop to do it. But then also just retouching blemishes and stuff like that in a way that's like, they've gotten so good at not making it look smudgy when you're like quickly drawing away acne and little stray hairs and like,
Yep.
And there's no, I don't care what anyone says. I've looked at pretty much everything for retouching, and barring like stuff that has too much AI, like Topaz Labs or anything like that, that's like not conducive to my workflow. Yeah, there's nothing. There's not a single thing that I can like draw on super fast. That's so annoying. Like, I really wish, what was it, Abode or whatever they were doing, that company that tried to raise like $500,000 that Petapix was talking about. Like,
yeah,
I wish that worked. I really wish somebody did it and pulled it off, but it's clear to me.
Well, there's a reason that Photoshop specifically has been the top of the pyramid since it was made.
Yeah.
They've never stopped continuing to add on to it, but not in a way that's ever made it feel so cumbersome. Yeah, there's a lot there, and most people will only use a single-digit percentage of its capabilities, but there's like no ceiling to your ability to learn more about it and continue to grow as an artist with it. It's incredible for that, and it's not slow. It's only really gotten faster. All the tools that I used to use that I would watch a loading bar for don't have one anymore. Yeah. You know what I mean?
It's literally just AI remove is the only thing you wait for now, and that's crazy. Yeah. Especially, I mean, you're on a M series MacBook now too, and it's like, dude,
it's ridiculous.
I can't even use my PC because it drives me nuts. I can go in and burn through images as though I'm doing like a quarter of the work. and I'm doing most of the same work. Like it's my workflow hasn't changed that much, just improved a little.
Yeah,
But
and I imagine that just some of that has to do with the fact that Adobe is so big; they have the resources to give to big teams of developers to tightly integrate their programs with the operating system to make things go as quickly as possible, which is crazy because where is that for Lightroom?
yeah.
Lightroom has gotten marginally faster, just barely keeping up with like higher resolutions and file sizes, and it's not gotten the same kind of treatment that Photoshop's gotten as far as efficiency and speed has gone. They've made some improvements over the years,
But
but
I think this is probably a coding thing. I'm stupid, so anybody smarter than me, bear with me for a moment because I am actually not super smart. However, I have to imagine, like, if you load up an instance of an image into however the code of Photoshop works, that's just more efficient than here's your entire catalog and you're kind of going in between these massive raw images and applying stuff
yeah.
because your RAM
Oh, you're
because
right.
your RAM in Lightroom gets chunky if you're like working on 1,000 images. So I don't know that you can do it. The way to do it is the way that people that have been using Adobe a lot longer than me used to have to, so they understand its benefit, which is like doing smart previews for certain things to do it the right way. And I
Mm.
think when you do it like the unhinged way that I do, which is like load me the full ass preview in every single full file, you're
Yeah.
just not gonna have as good of a time as if you spent the time to like again the way that a bunch of people still do it is when they upload all of their stuff they convert everything to DNGs instead of like
Yeah.
ARWs or CR2s or 3s and that's apparently a game changer because you're working with a file that Adobe can just chug through faster. um,
Yeah. That's a great point, and it's totally true.
so yeah, I that's probably a little bit of that issue. It's trying to think really hard with like every problem, whereas like Adobe's like, okay, here's my or Photoshop's like, this is the problem. I'm working on this image.
Mm.
And I'm an asshole at work. I'll load up 30 images into Photoshop and I'll have a bunch of windows, but it can do it now.
Yeah,
And
it can
it's
do it.
why I can go through, I can touch it up, and I just X save. Next one. And my freaking
Yeah.
workflow for that round tripping is crazy because then it dumps in there, and Lightroom over here will be slow as it's like getting all of these TIFFs back into it. But
Yeah.
dude, that is crazy what you can do now. I will
Hmm.
literally load up 30 images into Photoshop and just like run down the line. I'm fortunate in that I got 36 gigs of RAM in my MacBook, but
Yeah.
which is the only reason I think I can do that. Um, but yeah, so it's. I'm sorry that there's nothing yet, but hopefully we figure something out. DaVinci's amazing.
Yeah.
I've,
DaVinci's great. On the MacBook, I have had next to zero issues with DaVinci, which is a very different story than from my Windows experiences. But like using iPhone 4K 30p footage on DaVinci just flies. There's like a beautiful experience.
no,
It's snappy. I don't grade any of that footage, as you could tell with the white balance stuff. But just throwing it in, cutting. I had four video layers for different graphics and 4 audio tracks for the last one. You know, hours of footage and none of it was an issue. So I've had a good time with it.
yeah, yeah. It's been not bad.
Yes. Okay. Sorry.
All good. But yeah, so the best part. So I bought the full version. I finally have figured out how to get all of my like control strokes down, so I can use the timeline like I kind of do in Premiere, so I can cut faster. Because I was really struggling. Like I couldn't figure out. I like to switch between the blade tool and the select tool, and
Me too.
it took me so long to figure out how to set. They do not make it easy to keybind the select tool for some reason. I thought that was crazy. And because they do the layer thing with like your keybinds are separate between each panel, it was kind of challenging the way they word some stuff to figure out exactly how I do it. But after a few edits, I finally think I got there. Um,
Mm.
uh, I think it's funny. I hated the audio editing when I first tried to switch the first few times. I was like, this is so bad. Like
Like in the Fairlight
yeah,
panel.
I hated all of the Fairlight effects. I couldn't figure it out. There's still some stuff that I missed that I really liked how the Adobe plugin worked, like whatever the effect was. But then I realized, I was like, oh, each channel has its own freaking EQ, panning, curve automatically applied to it. And now I fly. So I use RX Isotope for all my like vocal processing and stuff like that. That dumped right into there easy, and that's good to work with. Changing the buses, like it's a audition, not audition. If it's something that's like more music focused, I can switch if it's like EQ first or the FX first or whatever. Once I learned that existed right there, that changed my entire life. It's pretty sick. So I think I finally got that part figured out. It's still a little clunky because the timeline works differently in each of the panels, which is kind of annoying.
Yeah.
And you can't customize your windows, which I do quite often with all my panels. I have like between color, the actual editing tab, and probably audio in Premiere, all of my windows change drastically. Because like if I'm in color, then I want my preview to be huge, and stuff like that. But I've actually been DaVinci makes it really easy to set up the preview for the video on the MacBook screen. So I use an external monitor to do all my editing, and then my MacBook, because the colors are kind of nicer and I can trust them a little better. I just put my whole preview, my whole MacBook screen is the video preview. So I'm cutting and just like looking at it. So that's been pretty good. So
yeah,
pretty wild.
And it renders so fast.
Yeah,
I mean, between just the MacBook being so powerful and efficient, and DaVinci just seemingly being efficiently made. Yeah. It's a great combo.
Yeah. It's certainly a lot faster for like this show. You know, we're over an hour now, and it's going to be pretty simple to render this out. But yeah. Anyway, that's unfortunate, and we'll keep looking at alternatives. Somebody make a new thing and tell us immediately. That'd be awesome. I will back it if you're serious and have the data to prove that you're actually going to make it, because Abode did not.
Abode.
But yeah, is there anything else that you got for us?
Nah, we're running late. We're good this week.
Right on. It's crazy. We'll figure it out. Thanks for listening. I'm gonna ham up some stuff before I get out of here. It's gonna be a busy day. So great talking. Please share with us your stories, your art in the comments if you'd like. Feel free to jump in on the conversation. Leave us a review. Thanks for listening.
Would love to know if you're keeping an eye on photographers or artists who are doing something so vastly different and creative and unique. If you're in a place where you can leave a comment, leave their name or some way to find them. I'd love to see some unique work.
Yeah, same. That would be great. Awesome. Well, we will talk to you all soon.
Thanks for listening. See you in 2025.